Okay, now we proceed to the lecture number 34. So in the previous lecture, yes, there was lots of discussions, and I'm very happy to that because welcome. The only thing was I have less time to continue with the discussions. After the lectures at lectures, we can have more discussions on this matter. You are always welcome. Then, and also if there is a fault in our idea, I'm always willing to change what I say, right? So, but with this point, I'm saying it with more confidence. And at the moment, I explained that the Chitta Chetsikas, in addition to their knowing of the object, they have a sense awareness of its own existence. So anyway, so then a question may come before I proceed to the next topic. A question may come, then is it necessary to know this awareness? Actually, in Abhidhamma, we don't study this kind of awareness from the beginning. Personally, I believe this has to be taught from the very beginning of Abhidhamma. But the next thing is, and it's a practical aspect, when you recall a chitta back, you have this sense of familiarity. So even you know it or not, even we distinctly explain that about the awareness or not, it is not going to affect your experience. It is not going to affect your practice. Because when you recall a chitta, the chitta itself is with that awareness. When you recall it, you have the sense that you are experiencing a certain object. So therefore, even lack of knowledge is not going to hinder you from progress in your vipassana. This is a detailed analysis about this awareness of it. So I'm very grateful to my friend Venerable Devananda for introducing me this idea. And in the beginning, to be true, I opposed him more than you. I brought more and more information from Abhidhamma. To all the knowledge that I had, I was going to refute him, but in the end I felt that was correct. And I'm very grateful that he pointed out this point. And today he's not here, he's in Sri Lanka. He'll be very happy if he knew that I explained it. I don't know whether I explained it properly or not. Anyway, so this is a point that maybe it may be new to you, to the tradition, but with the practical experience, this is something, is not new. It is, I think, it is something which exists in the nature. So we'll leave the topic for further discussions, private discussions. I'll proceed with the mentality topic because of the time. Momentariness of mentalities. So momentariness of mentalities are arise and pass away very quickly. They are very fast, we call. Arise, as soon as they arise, they passes away. So normally in Theravada tradition we say mentality is faster or rapid than the materiality. So there are 2 points of views. Normally accepted idea is materiality is 1 out of 17th portion of time of a materiality. But according to a statement found in the commentary itself, Mulatika suggests it is 1 out of 16. So there are two theories in the Theravada tradition. Materiality is 17 times faster than mentality, or longer than mentality, the lifespan, and materiality is 16 times longer than mentality. So whatever it is, we are not able to verify this. Whatever it is, the basic ideology is mentality has a shorter lifespan than materiality. That is the basic fundamental of the tradition. Then, according to the Sankata Lakkana Sutta, or because we studied in the ultimate theory of ultimacy, according to the Sankata Lakkana Sutta, all the conditioned realities have 3 characteristics. Uppādo paññāyati, vayo paññāyati, titassa aññatattam paññāyati. So all the mentalities, Uppāda arise, passes away. During their existence, titassa aññatattam paññāyati, there is alternation, change. This change we call jara. So these are the 3 basic characteristics of Sankata characteristics. With these 3 characteristics, we find 3 phases of mentality. So these are 3 things. Uppāda, Vaya, Jati, Jara, Marana. Uppāda, Vaya and Jara. Even Jati, Jara, Marana. And we have Uppāda, Titi, Bhanga. These are 3 phases. Jati, Jara, Marana are all characteristics. But Jati and Uppāda are same. Bhanga and Vaya and Marana are same. Titi and Jara are not the same. Jara is the alternation. Titi is the phase, persisting phase. So hence, based on this fundamental sutta, mentalities have three characteristics: Jati, Jara and Marana. Mentalities, as any other Paramatta Dhamma, Sankhata Paramatta, have three existing phases. They are arising, genesis or origin, Uppada, vanishing, passing away, Banga or Vaya, and phase of persisting, Titi. However, unlike corporeality, mentalities do not have a separate phase called Titi. They don't have a separate phase called Titi other than Jati, Upada and Vaya. According to the tradition, as the commentators have advocated, they say Chitta has three phases: Upada, Titi and Banga. Vaya, Titi is a separate phase from Upada and Vaya. But as the Mulatika, Venerable Ananda Vanaratana, referring to the Abhayagiri fraternity, as they have advocated, adjusted this theory that Chitta has only two phases, Upada and Vaya. And this was highly praised by the late Burmese scholar Venerable Ledi Sayadaw. Even he suggests it is not logical with the reference of the literature Chitta to have three phases. He suggests Chitta has two phases, Upada and Vaya. If you want to bring the Titi, Titi is the phase where the speed of arising stops and starts to, the strength starts to decline. So these are another 2 points. So as the lifespan of mentality is twofold, two arguments are there. In the same way, regarding the existing phases, the reality is called existing as it arises, and between the period of its arising and passing away, we call it existing. Then in these existing, normally the idea of the Theravadians, there was an existing phase, Titi phase and passing away phase. So this was Genesis. They were same in the time, Upada, Titi, and Vaya. So this is the normal theory you study in Abhidhamma. Chitta has three phases. But as the Abhayagiri fraternity has advocated, and Venerable Ananda Vanaratana referring to Yamaka, Chitta Yamaka, which always says about arising and passing away, no mentioning about Sthiti. He suggests that Chitta has two phases, arising and passing away. Why do we say so? Based on the literary information. This cannot be experienced practically, right? Literally. So he says Chitta has only two phases, Upada and Vaya. Venerable Ledi Sayadaw praises this argument over the commentarial idea, Upada and Vaya. Why do I say it's advocated by Abhayagirians? There is an argument regarding whether the Cheto Pariyajnana, the Abhinyā which can read others' mind, whether it can observe the exact present or not. There is an argument going on. In that, the commentary explains about the Abhayagirians' idea. So Ananda Vanaratana says in his Mulatika, which was my thesis, so luckily I had the opportunity to read it to a certain extent. He says this idea of Upada Titi was advocated by the Abhayagiri fraternity, Abhayagirians, who were the rivals of Mahaviharas. Rivals doesn't mean that we have to reject whatever they say. There are occasions in Venerable Buddhaghosa accepted the ideas of Abhayagirians. So it's a Buddhism, there is no permanent rivalry, it's just a mismatch of our philosophies. So we don't agree, if something agrees, we accept it. So there is no permanent rivalry. We cannot say Abhayagirians are wrong, Mahaviharas are correct. They are later developments. You cannot do it. It's the mature person would always think what is correct and adapt what is correct and reject what is wrong. Even within the Mahaviharians, there were opinions that the Mahaviharians rejected themselves. So this was advocated by Abhayagirians and he accepted based on Yamaka. Venerable Lady Sayadaw suggests this is very logical based on the argument given in Kathavatu. His argument, I feel, is much more stronger. In the Yamaka, Chitta Yamaka always mention Chitta arise, Chittam Uppajjati, Nirujjati. Uppajjati arises, passes. Arises, passes. This is what Yamaka says. The commentary says, in the Yamaka, the Tithi phase was not purposely addressed. That is the idea. Tithi phase was not purposely addressed. So commentary still rely on this idea. Then, commentary means, I'm not reading, looking down on the commentary. Commentary means our tradition, the idea of our Mahavihara tradition. Then, Venerable Lady Sayadaw brings a more powerful evidence from Kathavatu. Venerable Moggaliputta Tissa, who was the head of the third council, when he was forming the Kathavatu, there is an argument about the Chitta's lifespan. So the argument was, some schools thought Chitta existed for a longer time, it was not momentary. For example, the Chitta existed, one Chitta exists for the whole day, for a whole month. So likewise, right? There was a wrong ideology. So Moggaliputta Tissa's argument was, if you say Chitta exists for one day, now look at this argument. He asked the question, do you say half of the day for the arising of Chitta and half of the day for the passing away of Chitta? So this was his argument. If he believed that Chitta had three phases, how he would say? 1/3 of the part day for the arising, 1/3 of the day for the Chitta for existing and persisting, and 1/3 for the passing away. It's a very simple thing. The commentary says he purposely ignored the Tithi phase. It is not acceptable for personally me, because it's a given example. Why he could give through the example you can give a complete. If we held that Chitta had three phases, his own example is completely jeopardizing the idea. So his idea was, if you say the argument of this, if you say Chitta exists for 1 month, do you say half of the month for the arising of Chitta, half of the month for the passing away of Chitta? So what does this example suggest? He, Venerable Moggaliputta Tissa, held to the idea that Chitta has two phases. So based on information found in Yamaka, direct, not the what the commentary says with addition, the direct reference, and the Moggaliputta Tissa's example given in the Kathavatu, Lady Sayadaw says, this idea completely collaborates, fully collaborates with the Kathavatu, and he praises this statement. Then he suggests, if anyone wants to talk about a Tithi, persisting moment, Tithi, because according to our tradition, Tithi means Uppāda. Uppāda is, for example, this is how the materiality exists, reality exists. It suddenly happened, it exists, suddenly not more there. Arising means it was no more there before, suddenly occur. It's not a gradual development, it suddenly appears. Then it exists, it becomes weakened, and it passes away, not gradually, suddenly vanish. Then it's no more. So this is called the existing phase. It happened, it got weakened, it existed, got weakened, and passed away. So now this idea is put into a philosophical explanation. Arising means something happens out of nothing. Out of nothing means there was no reality before, no remnant, it suddenly happened. So this is a certain kind of an action. So when action comes from 0 to plus, it is a positive force. You know that if someone wants to, just an example, not proving, if you want to bring a car from 0 velocity to 1, velocity is the speed, right? 0 velocity to 1 within 1 second, you have to increase. You cannot come just 0 to 1. It has to be an acceleration. A plus force has to be added. So likewise, when reality is happening out of nothing, there is a plus force. We call it the force of the arising. Speed of Uppāda, arising speed. This speed is a plus force. If this speed keeps on happening, It means the reality is getting strengthened, stronger and stronger. But it is not how the natural phenomenon works. As soon as it arises, it is oppressed by a phenomenon called jara. This is an extra phenomenon. Jati and marana are natures, they are also phenomenons. But jara is a very special phenomenon in our literature. We call it jara agi, fire of aging. Every reality which arises is oppressed by this fire of aging. So what happens? This speed of arising, which was a plus force, if I draw it in a diagram, the plus force, out of nothing, it happens, suddenly it arises. This plus force, it was a plus force, it cannot be stopped immediately. So it takes time. The jara will oppress, and at a certain time, this plus force will be stopped because of the oppressing force. Like the lady said to give the example, this is a philosophy, right? This cannot be proven, it's a philosophy. It's like a stone is being put up. In the beginning it has been, the gravity is, jara is like the gravity which oppresses the speed. So when it is put up, suddenly there was a velocity, it reduces and suddenly it stops because of the gravity, opposite force. Because of jara, the force, now I'm talking about the force here. This diagram is about the force and time. Always time comes to the below diagram, right? Force here. So if you talk about the reality, if I draw it in this way, you may understand the reality is growing. No. According to the tradition, it completely arises in the full form suddenly and exists and completely vanishes. That is the nature of the reality. So if you talk about the force, the arising force increases. Increases means it is a plus force and it is oppressed by jara, and at one point it stops. This is the point where the reality is in its best form. Is it in best form? Then what happened after that? Because of the continuous oppression of jara, like the continuous force of the gravity, the rock will start to fall down. Likewise, the reality starts to get declined in the sense of exist, in the ability to exist because of the jara. So then it starts to decline. So Lady Sayadaw suggests, if you want to bring a called titi, titi is the phase between arising and vanishing. For the rupa, there is a separate phase. If you want to talk about the phase titi, which is apart from arising and vanishing, for chitta, you have to talk about the moment in which the speed of jara stops and the moment from which the declining of the strength starts. So if he suggests titi of the chitta should be this in terms of the diagram of the force. That's why we wrote it. This is uppāda. Now from here it has declined. So titi is this. He suggests, if you want to call a titi in chitta, if you want to suggest a titi, there's no titi like an except phase. It's just a moment where the speed of the arising stops and the chitta starts to, the strength of the chitta to existing starts to decline. Then a question comes, where jara? Because the sutta says, clearly says, Tini mani bhikkhave sankatassa sankata lakkanani. Amongst there are three characteristics of the conditioned realities. Uppādo paññāyati, there is an arising. Vayo paññāyati, there is a passing away. Titassa anyatattan paññāyati, there is an alternation during the of the reality which exists. Tita, persisting during the existing moment, persisting moment. So now what is this jara? How do we explain this jara according to this? Commentarial tradition says, jara is this. The field of jara is this. So according to it, we exclusively say this is the jara and these are not the fields of jara. For me, this is not a very good explanation. Why do I say so? Jara starts from the moment it arose. The speed of the arising starts to decline because of the oppression of jara. And it is oppressing from the moment it arose. For the moment it arose, till the moment is completely vanishes. So like the gravity. So Vedisado suggests the field of the jara is, this is the moment, this is the Uppada phase, just after the beginning of the arising till the passing away moment, this is the field. Field of jara. So he suggests this idea still matches with the Buddha's teachings. Tinimani bhikkave sankatasya sankatalakkhana. There are three characteristics. What is Uppado panyayati? There is a rising. Vayo panyayati, passing away. Titasya anyatattam panyayati. There is alternation seen during its existence. Then, if you are very aware of what if you analyze what I said very sharply, because I mentioned Titasya anyatattam panyayati, there is alternation in the existing. So it means I equals Tita is existing. Tita is existing. So if you remember, I purposely used the word persisting for the titi. Persisting for the titi. So why did I change this now? Because according to the tradition that we follow normally study in Abhidhamma teachings, Chitta has a different phase called titi. So we call it persisting moment, arising moment, persisting moment, vanishing moment. But according to the Mulatika's idea, referring to the Yamaka and Lady Sayadaw's explanation, referring to the Kathavatu, there is no such a specific third phase in between Jara and Marana. So, how do we explain this is Titi? Because there was a tradition of the ancient teachers who suggest, which was refuted by the commentary literature, says, Attita sabba dhammanam titi nama pauchati. The nature of presence is the titi for a reality. Of all the realities, nature of presence, conditioned realities, not the Nibbana, conditioned realities, the nature of presence is the titi. It means, as soon as it arises, the moment it passes away, it exists. The existing moment, not the existent, existing moment of the existent. This entire field is the titi phase. Titi means existing. So, during the entire field, the reality is oppressed by jara. If you talk about a rupa, rupa has a rising phase, passing away phase, and a long persisting phase. So we call it titi. This is arising. Uppada. This is vaya. This is a long persistent phase. So, if I draw this in a diagram of the speed, so it happens from here, for example, and it is stopped. Then, how to say, it starts to decline, and then we have a sudden decline. So that is how rupa is being explained, right? Or it has to be something like this. So in this phase, there was a time it stopped and it kept on declining, but this declining happens slowly, not like the chitta's decline. It happens slowly. So at a certain moment, it becomes very weaker and suddenly passes away. So this is the titi phase of a rupa. Right? The titi phase means according to the shape. But according to that explanation, the existing presence is the titi. It means from this moment onward till here was the field of jara. Because from here onwards, rupa was affected by jara. But it became stronger. That is a different case. For example, our growth is also part of the jara. Right? So it explains. It got because of the speed, it rose to a higher level, but that speed is always oppressed. So that's why it never went like this. It never went like this. It went like this. So it's oppressed by the jara, by the moment of continuing, from the moment it arose. So this is the philosophical point of view, because this is a philosophy to express the idea what this says. Otherwise, it can be very obscure. That's why I use these kind of diagrams. So yes, so I'll just read the paragraph and I'll come to your question, right? So if you go to 7.5, the paragraph. However, unlike corporeality, mentalities do not have a separate phase of persisting, apart from other two phases of origin and vanishing. Their persisting phase is the entire period of their existing. This was expounded. Please cut that line. It was a mistake. The third line. Their persisting space was the entire period of existing. That was a mistake. So please cut that. The second sentence of that paragraph. Their persisting phase is the entire period of existence. It has to be removed. This was expounded by ancient Buddhist scholars thus. Wait.
How to make creation?
Sorry. You should not remove it. Very sorry. Sorry.
Existing.
Yeah. It is to be there. Their existing phase, their persisting phase is the entire period of existing. Sorry, just leave it. This was expounded by some ancient Buddhist scholars thus. Attita sabba dhammanam titi nama pauchati. Existence of existing nature is the titi of all conditioned realities. Mentalities vanish as soon as they arise. Their alternation of jara is the weakening of the speed of genesis. And declining in the strength of continuing to existing. So Lady Sayadaw suggests that if someone wants to delimit the persisting phase of the mentality, it should be the moment when the speed of arising stops and the mentality starts to decline in its strength to exist. The field of jara is immediately after the beginning of the arising phase till the final of the vanishing phase. From here to here is the jara field. Yes, sir. You can have the question. Yeah.
First one. Whether they differentiate as 2 stage or 3 stages, I think it's just according to personal wish. We can divide it anyway.
It's no problem. I also agree with you. It's no problem. But when you refer to the literature, of the Theravadians, the doctrine, the information is found for 2 phases. That's what I mentioned. But it is not going to affect our practice or anything. This is just a philosophical approach to the teaching.
And this maybe divided 2 stages or 3 stages, their duration may not be the same length.
That is also another point. We can say their duration is, we cannot exactly say. But normally they say, the later Abhidhamma scholars I have seen, they have a similar phase, they suggest. But it can be different. But but basic, when the chitta is a basic characteristic, basic nature of knowing, I feel it should be the same.
And for the opinion of 3 stages, we can also understand these 3 stages as the second stage is the whole field of jhana, and the first stage is just the suddenly appearing. The third stage is the suddenly disappearing. It means the second stage is longest one.
Okay. So because
this way about 3 stages.
Okay. So you can divide like this is the one stage, this is the second stage, this is the third stage. It's possible, right? But since Upada, the speed of genesis is still found. Since the speed of genesis is still found, we call this entire state as Upada. Because as long as the speed of genesis exists, we still call it the phase of Upada. That is the theory.
If you take the middle cultivation as the second stage, it is also not the same length of the first and second.
So that's why I say, this is like if someone wants. Lady Sayadaw and Muratika Sayadaw said there is no titi of chitta. If you want to point at titi, that's what he said. If you want to point at titi, this is the point. But normally they say there is no.
And also, if someone has high concentration, has high level of jhana and high knowledge about vipassana, he can observe his mind clearly. How can get such an argument?
No. This one mind moment cannot be observed.
Cannot?
No. According to our tradition, these are the experience of the Buddha. Like this kind of level of experience. One mind moment. Experiencing one mind moment and distinguishing the Cetasikas one after another. So if you look in the Milinda Panya, he says, this was the Buddha's work.
We saw the inside meditation center.
Oh, that is, I'm not going to comment on that, how it happens. But if you're talking about one mind moment, this is a function, ability of the Buddha.
If so, one come out from jhana, how can one contemplate?
That is collectively, many chittas together. Actually, you are no need to focus on each and every chitta and analyze the Cetasikas. It's like, that's why I say, according to what I understand, the idea of the phenomenal object is what is the object of vipassana normally. So, even if you focus on the jhana, you focus on the mental qualities one after another. So for example, if you focus on the jhana, you go into jhana, right? And focus on this. This is the rising, you have many jhana chittas, right? So this is the arising of jhana, and the passing of jhana. You don't need to focus.
During this period, maybe first, second, third jhana, many kinds of jhana.
No, only one jhana. If you want to go to the second jhana, you have to come out, right? Come out and go in. You cannot have the jhana, the one attainment wall. You have to come out, go to the next, come out, go to the next, like that.
For example, after attend the first jhana, automatically enter the second jhana.
No, cannot.
Without coming out.
Cannot. You have to come out and purposely made an effort. Right? So then we go into the next part, mental clusters, cittuppāda. Yes.
For the Buddha, why Buddha can suddenly appear in the high level, not start from the lowest one?
Even here it happened at the higher level. Always, because that's why I say suddenly arising.
But it disappears.
Because
it's slowly.
Yeah, that is how it happens. Because you can never have a plus force from the zero. There's no beginning from the zero, right? Suddenly it happens with a plus force, right? If you are moving, it never comes from zero. It starts from a movement. Movement happens always with a plus number. Right? There is no certain cause coming from 0 to 1.1, right? Suddenly 0.1 happens. Right? So then, this is mathematical philosophy. Anyway, right? So then mental clusters, cittuppāda. Another point. So chitta arises with cetasika. So we call this cluster a cittuppāda. So how do we understand these mental clusters? Consciousness, which is the act of knowing an object, always happens together with some other mental actions, which are called cetasikas. A group of such mentalities, it means co-arising chitta and cetasikas, are called cittuppāda. In a cittuppāda, chitta and cetasikas are virtually inseparable. You cannot separate them practically. They are connected with each other more than corporal realities are connected with each other in a rupa kalapa. In rupa kalapa, matter also connected with each other, but their connection of chitta cetasica is more than rupa in a rupa kalapa. They are connected. This was explained with the terms plural, sampayutta and sansatta. With the terms sampayutta and sansatta. Sampayutta tha, nature of being sampayutta. I think we already explained that. Mentalities in a single cittuppāda have the same arising, have the same vanishing, they cognize the same object and they associate the same base. I think we know this point, right? Then sansatta in the next page. Chitta cetasikas which arise together are inseparable from each other. What is this inseparable nature? Though they possess peculiar intrinsic characteristics, consciousness and mental concomitants that arise as one cittuppāda are extremely difficult to be discerned as separate realities. Therefore, they appear as a single reality from the moment of their arising up to the moment of their vanishing. Hence, they are called sansatta. Sansatta means appearing as one reality and it's very difficult to be distinguished as different. So when two realities are together and when they are very difficult to be distinguished as different realities, we call they are sansatta. The Patavi and Apo which exist together, we don't call sansatta because they can be easily observed as separate realities. But Chitta Chesikas are very difficult to be done so. Then, mutual connectedness of mentalities in the cittuppāda can be verified by the information we get from the Mahavedalla Sutta. This Mahavedalla Sutta is a very clear evidence for us that Chitta Chetasikas happen together. Venerable Mahakottita, who was the foremost in the analytical knowledge with Patisambhidas, he came to the Dhammasenadipati Sariputta and asked the questions. There was a nice discussion. Please read this Sutta, Mahavedalla Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. In this Sutta, the discussion goes. Both are very knowledgeable Arahants. I think this discussion was done for our posterity, like for the future generations, for our sake, because they had already attained liberation. But still they prefer talking Dhamma. That's the nature of our. So if we read the paragraph, we will find that there's a very valuable information. These realities, my friend, which are called Vedana, Sanya and Vijnana, are they connected with each other or are they not connected with each other? This is our question. Venerable Kottitas. He further extends his question. Is it possible to show their difference, having separated them? Is it able to show their difference? Commentary says because they do have a difference in intrinsic nature, because Buddha has mentioned already, Chitta, Vedana, Sanya have different characteristics. You can verify this in Samyutta Nikaya. He gave definitions for Chitta, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara. So the commentary, within the brackets, commentary says this difference should be known in terms of object, in terms of base, in terms of arising, in terms of vanishing. The four characteristics of Sampayutta. If he was asking about can they be differentiated based on their intrinsic nature, it is already mentioned in the suttas. It's very clear. So this difference he was referring, that is the value of a tradition. The tradition suggests that this question was raised based on this particular aspect. If the Thera asked the question, can they be differentiated in their intrinsic nature? Surely yes, because the Buddha has directly mentioned it. The commentary says, tradition says, he was asking, can they be differentiated in terms of object, in terms of base, in terms of arising, in terms of vanishing? So what was the Sariputta's answer? These realities, my friend, which are called Vedana, Sanya and Vijnana, are connected with each other. It is not that they are not connected. This is the way of Pali, right? No, na, sansatta. It is not that they are not connected. It means they are connected. Right? Then, it says, what my friend Vedana feels something, is what Sanya recognizes. Vedana feels something, Sanya recognizes. What my friend Sanya recognizes is what Vijnana knows, having separated from other objects. Therefore, these realities, Vedana, Sanya and Vijnana, are connected with each other. It is not that they are not connected. It is not possible to show their difference, having separated them. So they were discussing about Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vedana, Sanya and Vijnana, which was happening at the same time. So Vedana, Sanya, Vijnana, based on these fundamentals, we come to the conclusion they arise always together as a cluster. In the Anupada Sutta, the Buddha mentioned about some mentalities that arise together in jhanas. He was mentioning about Sariputta's practice. Sariputta's practice, Vipassana practice, was called the Anupada Vipassana. It's a very famous sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. He says, monks, Sariputta had such a Vipassana practice, and he gave a complete discourse about Sariputta, his practice. So in there, Buddha mentions, Jhana Chitta arise. When Jhana arises, Chitta arise, Sanya arise, Passa, Chetana, Chanda, resolution, Adhimukha, Viriya, Vitarka, Vichara, Piti, Vedana, they all arise and they passes away with the jhana, together with the jhana. So this information also indicates that consciousness does not arise alone. In Patthana, the connectedness of mentalities which arise together is expressed under the Sampayutta Paccha. So our tradition advocates Chitta Chetasikas arise together as a cluster. So these are what you find in suttas to verify this definition, idea. Discussion of the Mahaveda Sutta continues. Again, Mahakotita. Actually, this discussion was before the previous question. These realities, my friend, which are called Panya and Vijnana, are they connected with each other or not? Or are they not connected with each other? It is possible to show, is it possible to show their difference in terms of object base, arising and vanishing? So, having separated them. So then the answer was, no, what the Vijnana knows is what the Panya understands. What the Panya understands is what the Vijnana knows. This was the Sariputta's answer. The commentary mentions that when the Sariputta was mentioning what the Panya understands is what the Vijnana knows, he says this was the Magga moment. Because when in our teachings, when we say the functioning of Panya, this is the supramundane attainments normally. So the Panya was necessary to see, understand the Four Noble Truths at the level of Lokuttara. So when the Panya sees the Four Noble Truths, Vijnana also knows it. Then what the Vijnana knows, Panya understands, means he was referring to the understanding at the Lokiya Vipassana level. When the Sankharas are known as Anicca, Dukkha, with the Vijnana, Panya also understands them. So then, 7.7, it means, so if based on this commercial explanation, even though mentalities possess, this is a very important point, possess unique intrinsic natures, in collective cognition, they gain a collective understanding or collective idea about the object. So I use the idea because sometimes we have wrong ideologies about objects, because of ditthi, not only understanding. So in a collective cognition, we get a collective understanding or idea. For instance, when a mental cluster in insight meditation contemplates sankharas as impermanent, understanding we gain is achieved as a collective functioning of the mentalities in that mental cluster. We are not gaining different understanding at one moment. It means even though there are sanya, chetana, chitta, panya are there, we are not going to get a different understanding because of panya, different understanding because of chitta, different understanding because of sanya. It's a collective understanding. That's the important point I want to emphasize. It's a collective understanding. How do we explain this? It means sanya of the mental cluster recognizes the object. Vijnana focuses upon the object having separated it from others, and Panya understands the reality as impermanent. Understanding gained through such an experience can be explained as follows. How? At that time, we understand the reality which was known having separated from others and recognized based on his unique attributes as impermanent. So we have an understanding that the reality is impermanent. At the same time, we have recognized the reality which was recognized, reality which was known having separated from others was known as the impermanent. So the functioning of sanya, vijnana, panya all works together at the same time. So the understanding we get, the reality is impermanent, is, we should know that. When you know the reality is impermanent, at the same time, we have recognized it. We have known it's having separated from others. So all the functionings of Cetasikas happen at the same time. For our intellectual analysis and for the sake of Vipassana, we are supposed to separate it. The thing is, in Vipassana meditation, we are supposed to separate this. We are supposed to separate the functioning of sanya, functioning of vijnana, functioning of panya. So we go out of the samuha gana, the idea of compactness. So that is what we have to do, because in the world everything happens in a collective manner. No reality functions alone. In rupa, for example, when we want to walk, how many rupas and namas are involved here? The tejo dhatu has to lighten our body, vayu will push it, apo, tejo, patavi will hold it on the earth, apo will make it heavier, doesn't let it to distract, and chitta will make it the intention, chetana, and so forth. So all these are gathered for one step. So what in Vipassana we do? We separate these realities with our wisdom. So we separately focus on chitta, separately focus on vedana, separately focus on patavi, apo, tejo, vayu at different times. So when we do it, the idea of I walking will automatically be dissolved. So in the practicality, we get a collective understanding because of the mental cluster. So, if I repeat again, when we understand a reality as impermanent, that understanding should be distinguished as we understand a reality which was known, having separated from others, which was recognized as an impermanent reality. So, it's a collective understanding. All the mentalities contributed to this understanding. So, this is a very important point. Another important point. Moreover, in a mental cluster, certain mentalities become prominent over others. That is also possible. It means, for example, when we are about to obtain a pleasant object, you are going to get a very pleasant object. What do you feel? We feel piti, happy. So when you are experiencing or feeling this object, you get the sukha. You feel that bliss. You are enjoying it. But in both the occasions, we had somanassa vedana and piti before attaining and also while enjoying. But before attaining, piti was more prominent, while you are enjoying, sukha vedana or somanassa vedana was prominent. So likewise, the example is given, the color of object. Because this is just a simile, there are many elements here, but color is prominent to your eyes or others. So likewise, certain cetasikas become prominent. Maybe sometimes chitta, chetana, piti, dosa, lobha become prominent over others. So that's why we feel, I had anger. You don't even feel there is a chitta. Just anger is prominent. I had a lust. The lust was prominent, not the chitta. I had a recognition. The sanya is prominent. I had a piti. But all are happening collectively. That's what Venerable Sariputta said. You cannot separate them. But some become prominent over others. That is also nature. So at that time, as a Vipassana yogi, we should know, either you can focus on that element as what is prominent, you can focus it as an ultimate reality, or you can just stop it, hold it, and you take it as chitta, priti, observe its quality of chitta, observe its sanya, and you start to dilute the self-idea. Both is possible. Or you just take them, you experience as a phenomenal object, and try to analyze them analytically in Vipassana wisdom. So this is another point. Then, with the above information thus given, one may have a question regarding the statement found in the Pottapāda Sutta. In the Pottapāda Sutta, when the wandering ascetic Pottapāda was having a very good discussion, he was having a wrong view about the self, but that discussion is very valuable for Buddhists. It's in Digha Nikaya, a very long sutta. If you can please read this, the Pottapāda Sutta. In this sutta, Buddha was explaining about the sanya, perceptions, various sanyas, the subtle sanya, gross sanya, attainment of the sanya nirodha samapatti, idea of I, and so forth. It's a very nice discussion going on. Lots of philosophical points are found. In the Pottapāda Sutta, Pottapāda questioned the Buddha whether sanya arises before panya or vice versa. Is it sanya which happens before or panya which happens before? So Buddha mentions sanya happened before panya. After sanya, panya arises. So in the Mahavedanta Sutta, Sariputta mentions you cannot separate them. So what was this distinction? What was this difference? You have to understand it with the context of the Pottapāda Sutta. Because there is a fundamental, they cannot be distinguished in a one mental cluster. So what was the Buddha saying? Sanya arises before panya. Because if you go into the sutta, you will find that the context was different. So if I read this second paragraph after 7.9, third paragraph, this statement should be understood according to the context in which the sutta was delivered. As the discussion was going, the Buddha was preaching about jhana samapattis and nirodha samapatti. Nirodha samapatti, you know, there is no chitta or cetasikas arising. Moreover, he was also mentioning about attaining subtle perception, having overcome gross perception. You overcome the subtle gross perception of karma, come to the subtle perception of first jhana. You overcome the subtle perception of first jhana and you overcome the gross perception of first jhana and come to the subtle perception of second jhana. So likewise he goes till nevasan akinchanyayatana. Then he goes and attains the nirodha samapatti. So he mentions about overcoming the gross perceptions and attaining the subtle perceptions, and also the cessation of perception, sanya nirodha, which is the nirodha samapatti. The question was raised after the Buddha had explained about the attainment of cessation of perception, it means the nirodha samapatti, Or in other words, Anupubbādi Sanya Nirodha Samapajjana Samapatti, as it explained in the Sutta. So after Buddha has explained about Nirodha Samapatti and clarified the verity of highest perception, Sanya Agga. So after this entire long this discussion was going, Cittuppāda asked the question. Now the Buddha was delivering how to attain Nirodha Samapatti. About the Nirodha Samapatti. Now the yogi is in the Nirodha Samapatti. He asked, the most highest perception? Is it multiple or is it single? He asked the question, and then suddenly he asked, what will arise now? What will arise? Does Sanya arise first or the Panya arise first? Now Buddha was telling about attainment. If I draw it in the board for your reference. So he was telling about jhanas. First jhana till the seventh jhana. Seventh jhana. You know, seventh jhana is arupavachara, akinchanyayatana. Then he directly goes to 8 and Nirodha Samapatti. Actually, the jhana which support the Nirodha Samapatti is akinchanyayatana, not the Nivasanyana. Based on akinchanyayatana, you determine to go to the Nirodha Samapatti. Nivasanyayatana arises only 1 or 2 point modes, right? Which actually supports the Nirodha Samapatti is this one. This is the Sanyagga, the Lokiya Samapatti Sanya, which supports for your Vipassana and also for Nirodha Samapatti. So then he attains, but in between the 8 jhana will arise momentarily. Now he explained about this Nirodha Samapatti. Then he explained about highest perception, Sanyagga. Because the Cittuppāda asked questions, is this the highest perception? Is there any other perceptions more than that, and so forth? And now he asked the question. Now, if you think about it, now this is the way it came. Now, which arises first? Sanya arises first or Panya? So now, why he says about arising of Sanya and Panya? Because Buddha mentioned, when you go into the Nirodha Samapatti, the Sutta, he mentions there will be no Sanya. There is going to be no Sanya. Because why you attain this Sanya? Because after the 4th Samanjana, there is going to be a Olarika Sanya again, because Bhavanga is going to happen. So therefore, a yogi thinks it is better to come into a cessation, there is no Sanya. So then Buddha mentioned, this is the then Nirodha Samapatti, and Buddha asked, have you ever heard about any Samapatti from any other teacher like this? He said, no. This is the first time I hear about such an attainment, Nirodha Samapatti. Then he asked, is there any Samapatti higher than this, Sanya higher than this? Then he said, higher than this, and he said no. Then he said, is it one or many? Then he explained how these all Samapattis can be explained as Sanya Agga. He gave because Buddha's ability to explain in various ways. Then he asked, now he's a person, now if you go to the discussion, the person has already come to the cessation of Sanya. Now he asked, what arises first, Sanya or Panya? So the commentary says, based on this discussion, the question was asked, when it arises, when the wisdom arises, when the person comes out of the Samapatti, what arises first, the Sanya or the Panya? So he was referring, the commentary says, the Buddha gave the answer. Buddha gave Sanya arise first and then Panya. So what was he referring to? So they say, because of the Panya means the understanding. Now, someone who is completely blackout means there is no Sanya at all in Nirodha Samapatti. Now he wakes up. Now, what does this question mean? Will he just get the idea that he woke up from a Samapatti, or he get the perception first? Will he get a basic Sanya, and then when will he get the understanding Panya that he was in a Samapatti and now he is awake? So this Panya refers to the reflecting knowledges, Paccavekkhana. Paccavekkhana jnana means reflecting knowledges. This, when you come into these reflecting knowledges, you know that you have been in such a samapatti which you had no idea at all, there is no chitta, and you know you are awake. You know you are awake because you recall it back. Before that, according to our tradition, because you go into the sutta which was expounded by as I remember, Dhammadinna to Visakha. Visakha is not this lady, the male husband of Dhammadinna in her late life. So, as I remember, if my reference is wrong, please sorry for that. So, when someone wakes up from Nirodha Samapatti, what is his object? The question was asked. Sorry, not Visakha Dhammadinna. This was also Sariputta and Kottita, the same in Havedala Sutta. So the answer of Sariputta was, as I remember, the mind is inclined. When you suddenly wake up from Nirodha Samapatti, your mind is inclined towards Nibbana. So this is the fundamental for us in Abhidhamma you study. If you remember Nirodha Samapatti Viti, Bhavanga Chalana, Vangupacheda, Parikamma, Pachara, Anuloma, Gotrabhu, Neva Sanya 2 times, then Nirodha and Palachitta and Bhavanga. So why do we put Palachitta? It is based on the sutta. In the sutta, Venerable Sariputta, according to if my memory was correct, the information is correct, but I forgot who expounded this. So he mentions, as soon as you wake up from the Nirodha, your mind will be focusing or inclining towards Nibbana. So the tradition said, that moment the Palachitta is happening. Palachitta, you are focused on Nibbana. Because this process is not only because of jhana. If you think about the Nirodha process, you go into jhana, you wake up from the jhana, you contemplate the sankhara, you go into another jhana, you contemplate sankhara. While you attain this Nevasanya, Nasanyayatana and Nirodha Samapatti because of the power of your contemplations. And why the Palachitta happens? Because of the power of your Vipassana. Vipassana was the reason for you to have this Palasamapatti even after Nirodha Samapatti. You wake up. It is Anagami or Arahatta Palachitta. So now there's a fundamental in another sutta saying as soon as you wake up, you get the chitta observing the Nibbana, inclined towards Nibbana. Then automatically, as a normal yogi, in sasana, after your attainment, it is natural, you understand that you were in that attainment. So the Paccavekkhana jnana arises. So when the Buddha gave the answer, the commentary says, matching all these fundamentals in various suttas, they mentioned, Buddha was referring jnana arises second is because of the Paccavekkhana jnana. The sanya arises first. Because there was a chitta which happened after the initial Nirodha Samapatti, that was the Palachitta focusing on Nibbana. He recognized the Nibbana or understand the Nibbana. At that moment, he doesn't know that he has woke up. He just focused on the Nibbana. After the Paccavekkhana chitta happens, he knows that he woke up. So Cittuppāda was referring, sanya or panya happens first. So he was asking in a very shallow way. Sanya means he gets a certain perception, and panya means he knows he's woke up, that he was in such attainment. So Buddha says, first you get the basic awareness. That awareness, according to the Mahavedana Sutta, is Palachitta focusing Nibbana. Commentary says sanya refers to the sanya in the Palachitta. Then when the jnana happens, it is the Paccavekkhana jnana happens later. So when he says sanya happens first, he was referring to the sanya of the Palachitta, and when he says panya happens second, he was referring to the Paccavekkhana jnana. So it is not a statement, according to the explanation of the sutta, to show that sanya and panya arise separately or individually. This is to show the prominent, or to show how a person comes out of Nirodha Samapatti and have the sense that he was in such a Samapatti. So that is how we explain this. Then another question may arise regarding the first verse in Dhammapada Pali. If you remember the Dhammapada Pali, Mano Pubbangama Dhamma Mano Setta Manomaya. So it says, mind is the forerunner of the Dhammas, realities. So, I'll read the paragraph, then we can conclude the lecture. Another question may arise regarding the first verse in Dhammapada Pali. the Buddha mentions Manopubbangama Dhamma. The mind is the forerunner of the mental concomitants. Here the term Dhamma refers to Cetasikas. Does this verse not suggest that consciousness arises before mental concomitants? If it is the forerunner? No. Answer is no. It is clearly mentioned in the Mahavedala Sutta and Anupada Sutta that consciousness arises together with mental factors. Then what is meant in the Dhammapada Pali as the mind is the forerunner to mental concomitants? So the Pubbangama, the Pali word, has two meanings. That's what I have given. One is Purechari Pubbangama. That is the person who goes in front. Another Pubbangama is the leader of a group. When a group of thieves carries a robbery, they go together and they steal the thing. But there is a leader. Based on this leader, because of him, all the others are able to steal. So in such a group, we call he is also a Pubbangama. It doesn't mean he goes first. He is the leader of the group. So likewise, consciousness is the most prominent leader of a mental cluster. When the consciousness focuses on a particular object, having separated it from others, the remaining mentalities are capable of performing their functions in relation to the object. So that is what the Buddha mentioned in the Dhammapada Pali. It is not a place to say the Chitta Chaitasikas happen separately, because we have a very powerful fundamental in the Mahavedala Sutta. In one mind stream, there is another fundamental. Two mental clusters can never arise at the same time. Only one mental cluster arises at any given time in a single mental stream. This is another fundamental in the Theravada. This fundamental is made by the teachings given by the Buddha in Mahanidana Sutta. If you look into the Mahanidana Sutta, Buddha mentions, whenever Ananda, the pleasant feeling arises, at that time there is neither pleasant feeling, neither unpleasant feeling, nor neutral feeling. Whenever Ananda, unpleasant feeling arises, at that time there is neither pleasant feeling nor neutral feeling. Whenever Ananda neutral feeling arises, at that time there is neither pleasant feeling nor unpleasant feeling. So we know, according to the above explanation, it is clear that two Vedanas cannot exist at the same time. As only one Vedana is present in one mental cluster, we can arrive at a fundamental that one cluster happens at one time. If someone can ask, according to this statement, if you think sharply, Somanassa Vedana, Domanassa Vedana, and Padukama Supa Vedana. I'll say just Upekka Vedana, roughly. So Buddha mentioned when this is arise, they are not found. When this is arise, they are not found. And this is arise, when this arise, they are not found. Then one can ask a question, can't two Somanassa Vedanas exist? This is not a very good argument, because what is the prohibition? If for two Somanassa Vedanas to happen, and why there cannot be another Domanassa Vedana? So therefore, this point of view suggests us that when Buddha says, when one Vedana is present, there cannot be other Vedanas, we clearly understand that he was referring one Vedana at a time. So that is the fundamental for us to say that one mental cluster, cittuppāda, happens at a one time, in any given time, in a one mental stream. So these are the fundamentals that we want to discuss regarding the mental conclusion. So today, in this lecture, we talked about the momentariness of the mental cluster cittuppāda, and also we mentioned about the two arguments regarding the three phases and two phase theory. Then mental clusters, how they arise together, sansattata, sampayuttata, and with reference to the suttas. And also mentioned the collective understanding of a collective cognition, and then also the prominence of certain mentalities, and also how to understand the Pottappada question, the answer given in the Pottappada Sutta and the statement given in Dhammapada Pali, and also another fundamental that only one mental cluster happens at any given time in a one mental stream. So these are the points that I discussed, and I'm thinking, so to conclude the lecture today, so if you have any question, one or two, one question, one question.
So one suggestion.
Yeah. Okay.
When you explain those mentalities, they cannot arise separately. When you explain this point, why do we explain it in such a way? It means they are those sanya, vedana, mentalities. They are just the different attributes of the same process. Jida is the process of knowing.
Yeah.
this process have some attributes.
So what do you mean?
We give each attribute of this process as a name, like sanya, vedana, nidhi, like this.
So they are, if you give a different attribute, so they are different natures, right?
Yeah. Some process have this attribute.
So when you say the process, what is the process? You are talking about like, so process is like one thing called chitta, and chitta have these qualities, right? Chitta have a sanya.
Yeah.
So if it is it different from this or not?
Chitta is just knowing, so the process and refer to the knowing process.
So that's why in the beginning I mentioned, there are two types of knowings. If you remember the first mentality class, mentality class or concomitant class. So there are two types of knowing. Knowing done by the mere chitta, knowing done collectively. So I think you are talking about collective cognition. So when you say collective cognition, right? When you say collective cognition, they happen together. So if you are going to say chitta is the base and sanya are different, right? So you cannot, the Buddha, it will not give, because if you read the Mahavedala Sutta, the Vijnana is given the same position of sanya. What is known by Vijnana is recognized by sanya, felt by Vedana. So what does this mean? They give separate identities for these separate mentalities. So what you are suggesting is the collective understanding is done by the chitta. Is it? Done by chitta. Sanya, Vedana are attributes of it. So we would explain chitta has a basic understanding of cognizing, Vedana recognizes, Vedana feels, Sanya recognizes. When they all come together in the practicality, we have a collective understanding. So that's why I say, when you analyze the understanding of a sankhara as impermanent, we have to explain the sankhara which was known having separated from others, which was recognized, is known as an impermanent reality. This is the collective idea.
What I mean is, there is no such puzzle called chitta. It is just the process.
No, it is a reality, right?
We can call this process as real.
What do you mean by a process? It's action.
Yeah.
So action is a reality. So when the action of knowing happens, there are sub-actions of recognizing, feeling,
This
and
action has some characteristics.
yes.
Some attributes.
Yeah. So they are separately addressed. They are not the characteristics of chitta. They are different characteristics. So that's why we have the 5 khandas, separate khandas. Right? That's why we have separately, we can explain them.
Because if one explain in this way,
Yeah.
easy to make the reader create the wrong view of there is such a small puzzle called chitta, such a
No. That's why we mentioned their connectedness. I mentioned in the Sansattata. So they are connected together in an inseparable manner. Virtually they are not separable, but they exist together. They have their separate intrinsic natures. They make a collective contribution to the collective cognition, but they stay together. They are not like parcels, like as you say. Yeah, someone can have such an idea, but we have to keep on saying it is not. Yeah, we have to keep on saying.
Remind again.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the statement like this is easy to.
Which statement, if you can say, please?
Not only in this case, I mean, normally. Many
Okay.
people, when, after reading the Abhidhamma book, also.
Understands like that.
No. They create this Romeo think each reality is like each puzzle.
Okay.
The real exists such kind of small puzzle.
Okay, right. So thank you for that.
Again, this
okay.
is just the process together with the attributes.
Yeah. But when you say attributes, we are in our tradition, we don't say it's Cetasikas are not attributes of Chitta. Cetasikas are separate attributes. Chitta is also an other attribute. So when they come together, collectively we call cittuppāda. I think you are referring to the cittuppāda as a process, is it? Right? So cittuppāda is a collective one. is a panyati actually, like a rupa kalapa. So thank you for that. I'll go through and I'll be aware of that. So thank you for that. Give another new aspect. Thank you for the suggestion. And yeah, we'll conclude the class and we'll meet on next Saturday.